Welcome to the Newbie Real Estate Investor podcast. I'm Jonathan Boyle with my co-host Joey Chan. Today we have a special guest, Larry Steinhouse. Welcome to the show.
It's
me. Hey, Larry, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. What's going on, man? What exciting things you got going on that would make me excited?
That would make you excited? I don't know. You're a big
You guys making any money?
powerhouse, so it's kind of hard to excite you.
You'd be surprised, man. You could tell me about a little deal. I like little deals. I like all deals.
Well, working on a subject to Scotswood or something like that in New Jersey.
Subject 2 is my favorite way to buy houses.
Yeah, we'll definitely we definitely should talk about that in a minute.
Sure. Yeah, so we're gonna get more into subject 2s, creative financing, very briefly about stock options. We'll talk about what Larry does in his investor schooling, which I'm a student of. I just want to let everybody know that as well. So Larry, can you just let our audience know a little bit about yourself, a little bit of background, how you got started in real estate?
Well, I was born in real estate, and then my parents took me home to more real estate. And then I've enjoyed real estate ever since.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we're done. Great show, guys.
Well, the interesting part, I was born in commercial real estate, and then I went to residential real estate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know, do you understand what I mean?
No.
You were born in
the hospital?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
For those guys who didn't understand it, and then my parents took me home to residential real estate, Boy, I got to explain that joke. Is that where we are here? I got to explain my jokes.
Sorry, I'm a little slow sometimes, but I caught on.
A rabbi, a priest, and I don't know, what's the other one? A rabbi, a priest, and something, I don't know, walk into a bar, right?
Yeah.
and then I bought the bar, I don't know, whatever. Anyway. Okay, so let's do this again, Jonathan. Start all over again. You guys got no sense of humor. So when I was 18 years old, I actually bought my first property. So this is what happened. So I was actually working for a company called Crazy Eddie. You guys have no idea what this is anymore. It was an electronics store. It was the greatest electronics store on the planet. It was wild. And I was working there. I was actually a technician. And the head technician also became a friend of mine. And he was telling me about houses he was buying in actually Belmar, New Jersey. You guys know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
He was buying houses in Belmar, New Jersey. He was renovating them. He was fixing them up. He was renting them out. Or he was flipping them and selling them. I'm like, wow, that sounds like a really cool business. Sounds like fun. So one day I was actually working out at the gym, and gotta remember I was like 18 years old, right? And I'm at this gym, and they got the bicycle, the stationary bike. And at the gym, we didn't have iPads, we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have pretty much anything. We basically all we had was real paper printed things. So I didn't bring any book with me. I didn't bring anything, but I needed something to read. So I grabbed a real estate book off of the shelf. When you walked in, they had these books. It's funny, you guys. It's so funny that I'm sure you've seen them, but you probably at this point don't see them anymore. They had these books full of real estate, and everybody had their listings in them. So I pulled one out. I start flipping through while I'm on the bike, and I find this house in Easton, Pennsylvania. At the time, I'm living not far from Princeton, New Jersey, and I find this house in in Easton, Pennsylvania. It's a 2-family house, and I see it advertised for $26,500. So I don't know what I'm doing. I just called the agent. I said, hey, I saw this house listed. I'm interested in it. She goes, okay, great. Come on down. So I didn't realize that from Princeton to Easton, it's about an hour and a half. It's like, whatever. I go there, I drive. No big deal. And she shows me 3 houses, and the one that was in the paper was the one I wanted. And she goes, I go, what do I have to do to make an offer? And she goes, well, we'll write it up, and you have to give me a $500 deposit. And I looked at her and I go, I don't have $500. She goes, well, you got to give me something. I'm like, what do I have to give you? And she goes, well, can you write me $100 check? I'm like, and honestly, I was just too embarrassed to tell her I didn't have $100. But I write her $100 check, and obviously I make the check good. And then a month later, I close in the building. And then a couple of weeks later, I read this book by Robert Allen. You guys have no idea who this is either. It's so funny. Like the age gap is amazing, right? But I read this book by Robert Allen called No Money Down. And in this book, I actually read how I bought the property, which was pretty cool, right? So I actually learned how to buy the property without, that was the wrong button. I was trying to make the light lower. That's better. Okay, cool. All right. So I read how I bought the property, and just so you know, and it's really, really funny because I teach this now, and I didn't even know at the time what I was doing. So I got an FHA loan, which is what I suggest people do always if they're brand new buyer, you get an FHA loan if it's the first time you're buying a house. And if you're buying a 2-family house, it's fantastic. So that's exactly what I did. I got an FHA loan, and I also, what was called an FHA loan at the time anyway. And I also put the deposit on credit cards. So I had to come up with $3,600, and I got $3,600 off of credit cards. And that's how I bought my first house. Now, I made the biggest mistake ever a year later by selling that house at a 50% profit. So then you look at me and you go, whoa, that was a mistake? You sold it for 50% profit a year later? Yeah. The mistake that I made was if I would have held on to it, not only would the mortgage be paid off right now, but I'd probably be making $2,000 a month on that house. However, look, that was a long time ago, of course, and the rate of return isn't that great at this point. But even if I kept it 10 years later, I would have been making, whatever, $1,200 a month, $1,300 a month, owed nothing on it, and the asset would continue to grow. So that was one of the lessons I learned. I also learned how to be a landlord from that house. Boy, did I learn how to be a landlord. That was pretty smart. I quickly adapted to learn how to be a landlord. And landlording is actually a lot easier than people think. But if you get stuck doing silly things, you're going to be a bad landlord.
Wow, that lot to digest right there. As far as first deal, that's very interesting. Just curious. I don't know if things have changed, but back then you were 18 and you got an FHA loan. Did they still require like 2 years of income or anything like that? Or
I guess, I don't know. I was making $5 an hour at Crazy Eddie's. Now that was actually above minimum wage, just so you know.
Got
so
it.
minimum wage at the time was $3.25. I was making $5 an hour, and that was, and I had to show my whatever. I had to show thing. So you ask a question like that. That's a realtor or real estate agent question. I hate those questions. Right away, you're going into real estate mode, and you're going real estate agent mode, and going, oh, I know I have to show 2 years because it's FHA loan. Shut up. Stop it. Just stop it. Okay. I teach people how to buy houses with absolutely no money. I've been doing it for, I don't know. How old are you, John?
I'm 29, actually about to be 30 in a couple
Okay,
weeks.
so I've been doing real estate for 9 years longer than you've been alive.
Oh, wow.
Just keep that in mind, okay?
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong.
You've been alive, I've been doing real estate, right?
No, don't get me wrong. When I bought my first house with no money down either. So like I got a
But you
private
bought it through a bank, right?
No, I had a private lender,
Awesome.
and then they funded the purchase and the reno.
Awesome.
It was, the interest rate was ridiculous. It was 12 and 4, but at the time, that was my only option, and
that wasn't your only option. That was the only option you knew about.
Yes.
I will tell you that there are so many other options. Amazing.
Yeah, and I made $50K from that, so I couldn't complain even after all that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't complain. I would say, hey, you should have said, it was only 12%. I made $50K. Ha. That's the better answer. Now they funded 100%.
Yes, 100% purchase.
So you didn't take any money in your pocket whatsoever for any renovations?
Well, I went over budget by 10 grand, and I used credit cards.
Okay, cool. So you borrowed that money.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you know what your rate of return?
Infinite.
That's right. Isn't that the greatest rate of return on the planet?
It's amazing. It's the best.
You produced $50,000 out of thin air.
It's the best.
I love that stuff. That's the greatest story ever. Those are the ways to make money. Now, I do some crazy stuff. Joey's heard me say this before. When I go to a closing and I got to take more than $500 out of my pocket, I feel like a failure.
Oof. I like that mentality. It really makes me think. I got to work harder and better at getting better deals.
You can, and every deal out there is so easy, and you could buy it. It's just people. It's funny. People come to me all the time. I don't want to make an offer on a deal because I don't have any money. I'm like, yes, you do. I'm like, no, I really don't. And it's a really good deal, and I can't buy it. I'm like, if it's a really good deal, you'll find the money in days. I remember one time. I mean, I gotta tell you, this was like, all right, just to be honest, right? This was the worst deal. Not worst deal, but the worst time I had, or the biggest problem I had finding money. It was terrible. It was horrible. I mean, I could not find money for this deal for about 5 days. It was the worst 5 days.
Good problems. Good problems to have. That's awesome.
You also made us sweat it out.
So every deal I've ever wanted, I find the money. Sometimes I find the money before I even put the paperwork in. Like, in other words, it's funny. I have a text that I show people. And it's a real text. It's a text where basically the text message, I texted a friend of mine and I said, hey, I'm trying to buy this house. It's worth 80 grand. I need 50 grand. I don't remember exactly the exact verbiage. I need 50 grand interested. And she writes back and she goes, rate. I go 7%. She writes back and she goes, term. I go 5 years. I don't remember exactly the conversation. And she ticks back and she goes, send me details tentatively. I found money in a text message.
I believe that because it's funny. For I think maybe my fourth or fifth deal, I texted a buddy of mine. Like, I didn't even expect he had any money. Like, it's just one of those friends you never really talk to like that. And he's like, oh, I could fund the whole deal. And I'm like, yeah, I'll need $80K for the down payment. Okay. And then
Right. Great, right?
it's like I didn't try to hard sell him anymore. I'm like, okay, we're good.
Yeah, I've actually had people do this, and it's funny. I have had people blow the deal, where they go, "Hey, can you lend me 100 grand on a deal?" And the person says yes, and then they say, "Well, let me tell you about the deal. It's not about why are you telling me the deal? They already said yes." I've also had somebody this story too, because look, you got to protect your lender, and the lender needs to know how to do a mortgage, needs to know how to do a promissory note, and of course, I'm the expert. And most lenders don't know how to do that. And if you're borrowing, anybody out there listening to this, if you're borrowing money from somebody, make sure that you have good paperwork to protect them. Because if not, then you're the slime ball, right? So we have this good paperwork. So actually, it was really funny. So one day I had a lender. I asked him for $75,000 for something. I can't remember what it was. And he goes, "Hey, let's go to lunch and discuss it." So he literally meets me at lunch, and he just opened up his wallet, took out a check for $75,000 and handed it to me. And I handed it back to him, and I said, "No, that's not how it works." And he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You wanted 75,000?" I go, "No, you're going to take this check back. You're going to wire the money to the title company. The title company is going to pay for the deal, and you're going to have a mortgage and a promissory note. So that way, you know that if I don't pay you, you own the house, and you also can sue me in court. Because you just hand me this check for 75,000, you have no protection." So when you're doing things like that, you make sure you do it on the level, and you'll have much better success. And I can go back to this borrower anytime because they know that I'm on.
You said a lot of great things that new people need to really think about, because most people, especially in this business, they're like, they try to make it so simple, like, oh, just give me the check and we'll work out details later. No, you should be able to protect
Oh, absolutely.
your private investors.
Yeah, in fact, you have to do people a favor by borrowing their money. This is another thing that's pretty wild too. Like, everybody's like, "Can you please lend me money, please? I want you to lend me money. I need 100,000 for this deal, please." And no, it's like this. Listen, hey, listen, John. Hey, listen. I was on the phone with Joey earlier, and I'm already to do this deal, and I've got some potential lenders for this deal, but what we're doing is, I'm trying to see who wants to lend me some money on this. If it's you, great. If it's not you, that's cool. I understand. But if I was to borrow $100,000 from you, I know you're making 2 or 3% in your IRA. Hey, if I can make you 7% in your IRA, would that be a better deal for you? And then most people will say yes. And then you're going to say, listen, okay, I'll take care of it. We'll make it happen. And then sometimes, like, Joey calls me up. He goes, "Hey, listen, Larry, I need 100 grand. I got 100 grand. I need to lend it to you. Can you borrow it at 6%? Now, I just got a better deal from Joey at 6%, right? So I may call John back and go, "Listen, John, I actually got a better deal at 6%. I don't want to negotiate with it. I'm going to take Joey's money, but I promise you that the next deal I get, I'll give to you." Now, isn't that very different than what all these other real estate investors are out there doing? They're all out there doing, "Please lend me money, please." I've got people begging to lend me money, and that's the attitude you need to have. You need to have that kind of.
You need to have an
attitude.
abundance mindset.
Well, absolutely, but you also need to have that kind of confidence, and you need to also have that kind of a deal where the deal is so good. Now, when I give people deals, most of my deals, most of them have 75%. So the debt is 75% to equity. I mean, most of my lenders want me to die, right? Because if I die, I don't pay the loan back, and then they actually put a confession of judgment in my loan that says if I miss 3 payments, they automatically get the property. So they want me to die so they can have the property. I mean, I've got some properties with lenders that they lent me money. They lent me 100 grand. The property's worth 300 grand right now, and I only owe them 80,000 or 70,000 now because it was an amortized loan. And the confession of judgment doesn't say that they have to pay me the difference. It says that they now own the property.
Wow.
So that's a really great way for them to feel assured that they're going to be paid. You know where we are right now? I'm in my studio. You guys ever listen to the radio show?
Yes.
yeah. So we're on the radio. John, I don't even know if you know this. We're on the radio show at 1210 WPHT. We actually have a radio show. Phil and I, my partner at Investor Schooling, we have a radio show that we do every Sunday at 3:00, and we actually transmit it Facebook Live too, which is kind of fun.
Yep.
So that's why you see like the boards over here and the really cool microphone and and the headset. Actually, I don't even know if I could show you, but maybe I can. I can show you the whole studio. So this is our whole studio.
Wow, pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty cool. It's actually the whole studio. So I'm downstairs because I figure I might as well use the good equipment if I'm going to talk to you guys because I see what kind of great equipment you guys are using.
Yeah. No, so the funny thing, Joey and I are looking to do something like that when we open up our office. So
Awesome.
we're really excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I actually have my old stuff. If you guys want it, I got some old stuff. If you want to talk about it, I can actually help you set it up. Because we used to have cheaper stuff, and I upgraded everything last month. So we used to go into the studio to do our radio show, and then they closed the studio down because of the COVID crap. So I rebuilt the studio down here with all new equipment. So now we don't have to go to the radio station anymore. We actually transmit out of here. Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, I mean, you gotta improvise.
Well, this is more than improvise. I mean, you saw the picture, but
no.
If you ever come down here, you really be fascinated by it.
Yeah, definitely love to stop by sometime.
Yeah,
Cool.
for sure.
We'd love to have you.
Being a student for a few months now, in the investor schooling, I still haven't actually been to the actual school yet.
Yeah, you need to be here, man. It's
we've
awesome.
done
Just
everything
come. Bring this guy with you.
Yeah, I'll bring him down. As we were saying earlier, you do a lot of creative type of financing, Larry.
I don't even know how to not do creative finance.
I don't think we've done, well, I don't think I've done any deals, not like conventional deals, ever really.
Yeah, I think I do occasionally. I do a conventional deal. So how many houses do you think I own?
0.
Right. But here's a trick question for you. How many houses does my LLC own?
0. It's the trustee.
Right. So I know this is the craziest thing because, the people watching this right now go, what? Huh? He's supposed to be the real estate agent. He doesn't own any houses, and his LLC doesn't own any houses. Never, ever, ever buy houses in an LLC. No, okay. I shouldn't say never, ever because there's no such thing as never, ever. Almost never, ever buy houses in an LLC. I have an LLC that's basically it's not a shell, but it could be a shell. So basically, if you sue my LLC, basically you're going to get my cars because I have a couple of cars in my LLC, but you're also going to get the debt on those cars. So that's fine too. You're going to get some other debt, and that's about it. And my LLC pretty much has no assets except for maybe a car or two, right? It has no assets. Each one of my properties is held in a trust, and the beneficiary of my trust is the LLC. This way, I'm pretty bulletproof. We went through this COVID thing. Now it's over already. It's amazing. I'm watching the stock market, and I'm like, what the heck? Holy cow. It's complete recovery. I mean, we're now in normal numbers again. It's amazing to me. I knew once it broke 26,000, it was going to go. Mm-hmm. But 29,000 is right around the corner. 30,000 will happen before November, most likely. So anyway, I'm completely bulletproof. If anybody would have came after me, if anything would have happened, every single property is isolated from every other property, and I'm isolated from every property. It just keeps getting better and better and better. In fact, we're opening we're doing an LLC soon where we're going to be trading. So I'm going to be trading for other people, but I'm not really trading for other people. We're forming a company, an LLC company, and everybody's going to contribute into it, and I'm going to do the trading, and then we're all going to make money off it, right? Even my trading isn't even, so that's an LLC. So all that money will be in the LLC, plus I'll have another LLC that will be the actual trading LLC. So in other words, I'm not trading it. The LLC is trading it. I'm managing the LLC that trades it. So I'm protected, and then I'm protected, and then I'm protected, and then I'm protected. It's amazing how much protection you can get with LLCs, with trusts, with everything. And no one can get anything out of me. Matter of fact, I always joke, because I always carry about $1,000 in cash on me, and it's usually $100 bills. Let me see. Wait, hold on. Because I actually gave my wife some money the other day, so I don't know how much I actually have. But let's see here. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's 8 because I gave my wife some money the other day. And in fact, if I don't have at least $1,000 on me at all times, I actually feel like I'm naked. So I always say, this is what you could sue me for. It's all here.
Like, it's funny, like this is our first time we're really like talking like this. like, you know, we've maybe had small interactions on Facebook, but like you're blowing my mind with like everything you're saying.
Oh,
I knew you
it gets better.
out of this.
Do you know how much availability I have on credit cards right now? Have you heard the story yet?
Per LLC or?
No. Well, my total availability, like total between all my LLCs, between me, because my wife too. So all the credit that we have available that we can charge on a credit card. Like if I was to go right now to Macy's and use all my credit cards, how much stuff I could walk out with?
3 million?
10,000, 20,000. Give me a number.
2-3 million? I don't know.
Well, that would be pretty cool, but no.
I would
That'd
say
be
about
awesome.
half.
But I do have $660,000 available credit on credit cards. Like just credit cards. I'm not talking about lines of credit. I'm talking about credit cards. So I could actually charge $660,000 on credit cards. So you want to talk about getting money? You want to talk about getting money for a deal? So if I have the greatest deal on the planet and the guy says you have to close tomorrow, and I don't have time to find somebody to lend me money, or their money's tied up in an IRA and I can't get it in tomorrow, I can get it tomorrow because I could simply get it on my credit cards.
Yeah.
You ever buy a house on credit cards?
Well, no, I have not.
You haven't lived until you buy a house on credit cards. It's amazing when you buy a house on credit cards, when you could just sit there and talk about buying a house on credit cards. We had a student, Bill. I don't know if you know Bill, Joey, but he bought his first house. He was a student. He bought his first house. He got hard money loan, and he put the rest of it on credit cards. And I structured the whole deal for him. Ian Walsh lent him the money. I don't know if you guys know who Ian Walsh is, but I structured the whole thing, and I called up Ian. I said, "This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it." Blah blah. And he was like, "Okay." So the guy does 100% on hard money, or all the money he needed from hard money. Everything else he needed, he got on credit cards. He sold the deal in 2 months and made $27,000, and it was just beautiful. No money out of his pocket on credit cards.
Nice. Now, did he fix and flip the deal, or?
Yeah, it was a fix and flip. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay.
Now, the only thing that would have made it better is if they were zero. If you just opened up those credit cards and they were
So
zero.
the funny part, that happened to be true in this case. It happened to be 0%.
Wow.
Yeah, it happened to be 0% credit cards in this case. Yeah. So you want to know how to get credit cards?
How?
You ready? This is really hard. I want you to write this down because it's such a hard process that I want you to be ready. You have a pen in front of you?
I have a whiteboard right up here.
Okay, so grab your pen and your whiteboard. It's okay. You can come off screen. You can come out of camera because this is so important. I'm going to teach you how to get credit cards. You ready?
Okay.
Apply for them.
All right.
That's all you need to do. You just apply for them.
So then, serious question about that. What if you?
What about my credit score? Because I'm going to have inquiries on my credit score. Was that not your question?
About the inquiries, yes. I don't really care about the credit score part, but yes, about all the inquiries.
All right. So the funny part is 99.99.99999% of people in America do not know how their credit score is calculated. And once you learn how your credit score is calculated, you quickly understand that inquiries mean nothing. So the first question I have for you is, and you're a real estate agent who obviously has proved it earlier. What's the difference between a 720 credit score and an 850 credit score? Do you know?
I don't actually.
Take a guess.
Length of credit.
Yeah, I would have to go with Joey's answer.
Which was?
Length of credit.
Length of credit. No. What does it do for you? The difference between a 720 credit score and 850. What does it do for you?
Oh, like you drop interest rate.
You think so?
Maybe not significantly, but yeah, a little bit.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, you're wrong, but that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you want to be wrong about with the difference?
No, I'm good.
The only right answer is 130.
Okay.
Okay.
Essentially the same thing.
Yeah, that's the only right answer. There's absolutely no difference between a 720 credit score, definitely a 740 credit score, and an 850 credit score. There's no difference. So when you have an 850 credit score, you're actually a fool. What? Huh? But my mommy told me I should get my credit up, pay my bills on time, and have a high credit score. Look at me, I got an 850 credit score. Nah, 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 nah. And then you go, and I go up. I go, well, my credit score is 620, and I have $660,000 worth of available credit. What's your available credit? Oh, 5,000. Ha ha ha. Now, my credit score is not 620 always. Sometimes it's 620. Sometimes it's 805. You want to know when it's 805? You want to know what I do immediately?
When it's 805, you're applying for, oh, actually, no. Okay, go ahead.
Well, you were right. I'm applying for credit cards. That's exactly right. I'm applying for credit cards and lines of credit. Because when my credit score is 805 or whatever, and it's 720 or more, I'm applying for credit. I'm applying for lines of credit. I'm applying for credit cards. I want to get more credit. And what happens to my credit score? Now, what probably happens to my credit score is not much. But when I start using those lines of credit and start using those credit, my credit availability goes down. So if I have a 660 credit score and I owe more than 66, if I have a $660,000 available credit and I owe more than $66,000 on that credit, my credit score is going to go down a little bit. So if I owe 100,000 on the 60, my credit score might go down 50 or 60 points. All right. But there's the other side too. Now we talked about inquiries. So what do you think? So if somebody had, I don't know, let's say somebody had 58 inquiries on their credit report, 58, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think their credit score would be if everything else was fine?
It's the amount of, so once you have five inquiries, anything after 5 is basically the same. Doesn't matter.
So how much effect did it have on it?
Little to none.
Okay, well, how much effect did it have on it? If
Zero.
I have the maximum credit score I get is 850, right? Let's say everything else is perfect, and I have 58 inquiries on my credit. What's my score?
I forget the exact formula.
How do you not know this?
I don't know
This
the
is
exact.
what you need to know.
I think it's like 30 points or something like that.
Okay, you ready? So first of all, it's 10 inquiries, not 5.
All right.
So when you hit 10 inquiries, any inquiry after that will no longer affect your credit score. You will lose, when you hit 10 inquiries that are still on your credit report, you will lose 55 points. Not 56, not 57, 55 points. You can never lose never lose more than 55 points with the amount of inquiries you have in your credit. Now, 55 points could be significant if you've screwed up the rest of your credit, but that's fine. If you have available credit, the biggest thing that affects your credit, the biggest thing is making your payments on time. So if you're making payments on time, your credit score is going to be great. If you're making your payments on time and you have low debt ratio compared to how much you can get. So let's say just make it easy. Let's say it's $500,000 is the most that you can borrow. And if you only borrow 50,000, actually it's not even, it's 45,000 because it's 0 to 9%. There's no effect on your credit score. At 10% or more, it starts to affect your credit score. And then eventually if it hits 100% or more, then you're going to lose 175 points. So that's where it's going to start to affect it. So the more credit you have, and it's really weird because you want to know how to increase your credit score? It's the craziest thing. The best way to increase your credit score is to get more credit. So think about this, right? So let's say you have a $10,000 limit right now. You have one credit card with $10,000 limit and you have $5,000 on that. So that's 50% of your debt, right?
Yeah.
So your availability is now only 50%. So it just affected your 175 points is now cut in half. 87.5 points. Whatever that is. I don't know, like 70, whatever it is, right? So it's cut in half, right? So it's now cut in half. Now you could do two things to make it go to a quarter. The first thing you could do is you could pay $2,500, right?
Yep.
And then you have only 25%. Or you can get another credit card for $10,000 and it's the same exact thing. Just don't use the $10,000, right? So now you have a $20,000 available credit and you owe $5,000. It's only 25%, not 50%. Guess what happens? If you get another credit card for $10,000, it goes down more. Another credit card goes down more. If you want to get it down to 10% or 9%, you can get $50,000 worth of credit cards, and your $5,000 is the same amount of money you owed 2 months ago, and your credit score is now just shoots up 100 points.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow. So then question related to that, as far as, I saw this with one of my credit cards because of COVID, and like I'm usually around like the 620 mark.
They lowered the amount that you could borrow.
One of my credit lines dropped from like 5,000 to 1,200.
And your credit score got trashed because of that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you didn't prepare.
Okay.
This is why you have to prepare for times like this. So I knew that was coming. Actually, it's kind of funny because I have $660,000 worth of available credit, and I knew it was coming. So I actually, believe it or not, I did something that you also wouldn't believe I did. I went and tapped all my credit cards. That's why my credit score is lower now. It's probably around 650 right now, whatever it is. I don't know. But I tapped a bunch of credit cards because I knew that they were going to lower my rate. They lower my available credit, and I wanted to make a limit to where they could lower it. They can only lower it to the point of how much you owe. So, example, if you had a $5,000 before, and you borrowed $4,000 the day before they dropped it, they can only lower it to $4,000. They can't lower it any lower than that because they are creating an over borrowed situation, and they're going to fine you for that. They send you fines, and they can't do that legally. So I knew it was coming, and I went to the credit cards that I knew it was most likely to happen to, and I borrowed money off them. American Express will do it. Barclay did it. Barclay actually had a $40,000 limit. Now it's only $20,000. You know why it's $20,000, right? Because I borrowed $20,000 literally 2 days before they dropped it. Wow. And I knew it was going to come. Wow. But here's the thing, right? So when I say you didn't prepare because before COVID, you should have been applying for credit cards like crazy, right? So now if they drop your credit card from $5,000 to $1,250, you have 5 of the credit cards with $5,000 or $10,000 on it. Doesn't matter. That credit card company is not going to raise that for a long time.
So, okay, so then I guess your suggestion would be, like, let's say next day I have 100,000 and I paid off all my cards. You wouldn't suggest that whatsoever.
Well, so it depends on your goal, right? So if you want to pay, so I don't.
So like my goal would be to increase my credit so I could apply for more credit cards.
Okay, right. So you want to get your credit score higher so you can apply for it. So temporarily pay that off. Now you can also play the game. This is great too. If you really want to sit down and figure this one out, grab a credit card that the payment date is the 1st, right? Mm-hmm. And grab another credit card that the payment date is the 15th. So the one that's the payment date is the 15th, you're going to borrow the money from the one that's the payment date on the 15th, and you're going to pay the one back with the payment date on the 1st, 2 or 3 days before it's due. So on the 1st, what's going to happen is the credit card company is going to report that one has a zero balance because you paid it off, right? Mm-hmm. The other one doesn't report to the 15th. So because the other one doesn't report to the 15th, it looks like you don't owe any money. And then you apply for a credit card because your credit score just went up 50 points. And you apply for a credit card immediately, and then you get the credit card. And then 4 days or 10 days later, all of a sudden your credit score gets shot because the other number, the number that you borrowed from one card to the other now affects your credit score.
Showed up.
Wow.
But who cares? You got the credit card.
Right.
So that's why I said it depends on what you want to do. So you know that I can make my credit score, I don't know, 750 within 2 weeks. So there's only 2 times I need my credit score, right? One is when I'm literally going to a bank to get a mortgage, which I almost never do. Mm-hmm. And the other one is if I want to get a car loan. And a lot of times I get a car loan because car loans are really, really cheap. Like I bought my vet. So I have a $100,000 vet, right? And I go in there and the guy goes, do you want to finance this? I go, I don't know, what's your rate? He goes, 3.5%. I go, 3.5%? I said, hell yeah, I want to finance it. I could do a hell of a lot better on my $100,000 that I could, work with it. And I go, how much do I have to put down? He goes, you don't have to put anything down. I go, you're kidding. So I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. I'm going to drive out I love it. I drive off the lot with a $100,000 Corvette, right? And I put no money down. I paid for no title, no tags, no nothing. I get to drive the car for a month before my first payment. That's the kind of world we live, right? It's insane.
It really is. I feel like, we could definitely talk a lot, like several episodes with everything that you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I have a school. Okay. Yeah. Let me explain how this works, Jonathan. I come on here to tell you all this great stuff, and then all your listeners go, what the hell is this guy talking about? How do I find out more about him? Well, you go to investorschooling.com and you find out about it.
Well, we were going to let you put the plug in later, but yeah, I definitely understand. It's well.
And if you think what I just told you in a half an hour was a lot, ooh, just wait. It gets even better.
Okay. So before we lose all the time with you, Larry, so can you go over a little bit about Subject 2 and like what you do, any like creative deals that you've done in the past? Something.
Yeah, let me give you a PayPal link. You got to send me $10,000 and I'll tell you about Subject 2. No, I'm like kidding. Okay, so Subject 2 is like it's my favorite way to buy properties. And I'll tell you a funny story. It was about 10 years ago, maybe, I guess. I don't even know. I was sitting in a seminar, and it happened to be Fha Loan, my partner at Investor Schooling, happened to be his seminar, and he was talking about Subject 2. And I'm sitting there, and I literally, I'm like listening to people. But just so you understand, subject to the basics, you take over somebody's payment, the loan stays in their name, and the house goes in your name. This is like the greatest thing ever. You want to talk about a great deal, right? The house, you own the house, but the loan is in the other person's name. Now, I absolutely do not do this, but I just want to use an example for example. You don't pay the loan, that other person, their credit score goes down, not yours. Now, don't ever do that. That's, I mean, I warn people about this, but I just want to say what a great thing this is, right? You own the house, and your credit is never affected. In fact, the loan never even shows up in your credit. It's pretty amazing. So I owe millions of dollars. And my loans on my credit show I owe in real estate $500,000. And I find it hysterical every time I look at it because I know what I really owe. They'll never know. So you're taking over people's payments, and it was about, like I said, a little over 10 years ago, maybe even 12 years ago already. I'm sitting in a seminar. Phil Falcone's talking about subject to, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I got my arms closed. I'm like, no way. There's no way nobody in the world is ever going to do this. Nobody's ever going to let me take over their payment, make their payment for them, trust me with it, and give me their house. It's impossible. Nobody does that. So, that's what's happening to me. And I'm sitting here thinking about it. And sure enough, it's like, I don't know, it's like two or 3 weeks later, I'm sitting down. At the time I worked for a computer consulting company, and I'm sitting down with a client, and she happens to be a friend of mine too. I've known her for many years. And she starts telling me about this property. It's a 2-family house and has a pizzeria. It's a commercial property. And she's telling me how much she hates this property. And at the time, you got to remember, this is a time where, real estate was pretty trash now, right? 2008, 2009, real estate's pretty trash. So yeah, so it was around 2010, I think I bought this. So yeah, so it's about 10 years ago. So real estate's pretty bad. And she's got it on the market for $180,000. I said, well, how much do you owe? She goes, oh, I owe $175,000. I go, you have it on the market for $180,000? You owe $175,000? I said, even if you get the $180,000, you got to come to closing with like $20,000. And she goes, yeah, no, I don't care. I said, why? She goes, because my husband and I are getting divorced. I can't stand the guy, and he won't let me divorce him unless this property is sold. And I'm like, get out of here, really? And she goes, yeah, that's the situation. I said, well, and I remembered, because we had this whole conversation at this thing, that, I basically looked at her and I go, well, what if I took over your payments, I took over the property, you don't have to worry about it anymore? And sure enough, I'm telling you right now, that's the line. What if I take over your payments? What if I take over the property and you don't have to worry about it anymore? And you just wait. Just wait for them to say this, and they're going to say, really do that? And you're like, wow. And every subject to deal I ever do, I swear, it's some variation of that. Can you really do that? Can you do that? Is that legal? Can I do that? It's funny. It's always some variation of, can you really do that? It's always. And once they do that, you got them. And I swear, I look at her and I go, oh, absolutely. And I'm thinking to myself, I have no freaking clue how to do this. But I know I can do it.
It just reminds me of my first short sale.
Right. So the funny part is, right, so then I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, she goes, and then I could just see it, like, she goes, oh, what's the matter? And she goes, well, we have to see if it's okay with Mark, the husband, right? I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I knew it. I knew this was a bunch of crap, just because she believes it. There's no way I'm going to convince him. This is total crap. There's no way this could be done. It's impossible. But I look at her and I go, why don't you set up a 3-way phone call? I'll talk to Mark, I'll talk to you, and we'll talk about it. So a couple of days later, I get on the 3-way phone call, and I'm talking to the two of them, and I'm telling Mark all about it. So this is what I'm going to do. And I'm like really nervous because, like, my first subject to deal, I don't know what I'm doing. I just, like, I guess I'm nervous, right? So I'm on the phone. I'm like, well, listen, Mark, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to buy the property. I'm going to buy it for $1, and I'm going to make your payments, and I'm going to pay all this stuff, and I'm going to do this, and you don't have to worry about the property, and it's not going to be your property. I swear, I must have been rambling for like a half an hour, right? Blah 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 blah. And John, you're a salesman, right?
Like I was saying, I'm not really an agent.
You're a salesman, right?
But yes.
Yeah. So do you know what to do when you close in a sale? Like, you say, do you want to buy it? Do you know what you do next?
You shut up.
You shut up, right? So I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to buy it for $1. And what do you think? And I wait. I swear it must have been 7 minutes that went by before I heard anything. No, it must have been like 10 seconds, but it felt like 7 minutes. And he goes, let me get this straight. I'm like, oh, shit. You're going to buy my property for $1. I'm like, yeah. You're going to take over the payments. Yeah. I don't have to worry about the property anymore. Yeah. And he goes, I would never sell a property for $1. I'm like, see, I knew it. It's a bunch of crap. And he goes, so it's $1 and a case of Rolling Rock. I nearly fell off my chair and hit the floor. And that is a true story. And that was the story of my first subject to deal.
Crazy.
Wow. So after you purchased it, did you do any renovations or anything like that?
So I bought the properties for $1,724 out of my pocket. That's all it cost me. It cost me a little bit of transfer tax to buy the property, $1,724 out of my pocket. And the payment at the time was $1,570. I was collecting $2,300 a month on it. And it had about $40,000 equity. She underpriced it, but she wanted to get rid of it. That property now, so here's a really cool thing, because it's kind of like a side story, but a really neat story. So of course I bought it in a trust, because that's what you do. I learned that a long time ago. Plus, subject to, you want to buy in trust for other reasons as well. So I buy the property in a trust, and sure enough, it was about 5 years ago, I guess, at this point, that I get a phone call from my property manager, because it's up in Lehigh Valley. It's actually, the funny part is it's in Easton. If I remember, I told you I bought my first property in Easton.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this was my first new property in Easton. I hadn't owned properties in Easton over 20 years, and this property happened to be in Easton. And I get a call from my property manager. He goes, hey, listen, I sent a guy out there. There was a couple of corner pieces missing from the siding, a bunch of corner pieces. And I sent some guy out there to take a look at it. And he called me back up and he goes, did you know that this building was pelted by hail? I'm like, what? And Jason, my property manager, goes, yeah, I don't know. He's some guy. He's telling me that he could replace the whole siding on the building. He goes, you should call your insurance company. I go, come on. So I agree to meet the guy there, meet the roofing and siding guy there. And I'm just dismissing the guy. I mean, it's really funny. I'm like really rude to the guy, because I'm like, oh, this guy's a shyster or whatever. I don't need this crap, right? So he starts to tell me about how the building was pelted by hail. And I go, first of all, the siding on this building, if the siding on this building was 50 years old, it might have been more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it was aluminum siding, and it might have been 50-year-old siding. It might have been more. It might have been the original siding from the building. I don't know, but it was, that old, that faded, that garbagey, that disgusting, right? Mm-hmm. So he takes me over to the building, and he starts to show me little like dents. And I laughed, and I go, these little dents, this could have come from anything. They could have come from, I mean, this siding's been here for 50 years. I go, how do you know it's hail? And he goes, oh, well, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to show you the weather report from 6 months ago. And I'm like, really? He shows me the report from 6 months ago, and sure enough, a hailstorm went through there. And I'm like, come on. And he goes, look, what's the difference? Call your insurance company. So I call my insurance company. They meet me down there. Now, remember, this is my first subject to deal, right? I've had the property for a couple of years now. I've had it probably maybe 5 years now, and it's got some equity in it now. It's making some money. It's pretty cool. But the property is a wreck. I mean, the roof is old. The siding looks like crap. And the little outside building, which is the pizzeria, looks like crap and needs new roof, right? And he comes down there, and I call my insurance company, and they go, oh yeah, there was a hailstorm that went through there 6 months ago. I'm like, really? and the insurance company goes, we'll meet you down there. We'll have an adjuster meet you down there. So the adjuster meets me down there, and the adjuster brings another roofing and siding guy. Like, in other words, they're bringing their representative, roofing and siding guy, my roofing and siding guy, this guy who I think's the shyster, meets me there too. And I watch the two of them go through the building, and the two of them are taking markers, and they're marking all the spots. And I'm looking at this like I'm bewildered. Then they go, we should look at the roof. I mean, their siding guy, the insurance company siding guy, roofing siding guy, says to my guy, we should look at the roof. And they pull out their ladders, and they go up to the roof, and they start marking the roof. I'm like, what the heck? and they go over to the other roof for the pizzeria, and they look at that, and they do the same thing. They're marking the roof. The roof on the pizzeria needed to be replaced 25 years ago. Okay, so you understand, the roof on the pizzeria needed to be replaced 25 years ago. That's how bad this roof was. Right. And they're marking it with spots, right? They both come down. They turn to the insurance adjuster. They go, oh yeah, this building was destroyed by hail. And she looks at me, and she goes, all right, I'll get back to you. They get back to me about a week later, and they hand me a check for $42,000.
Holy shit.
And I replaced all the siding, all the roofs, the building.
Turning red.
And it even gets better, right? So let me
Holy
tell you how. So this building is in the middle of town, and it was a shithole, right? I mean, it was like, you know, I'm not a slumlord, so it wasn't that bad, right? But it was an unattractive building. It was just an ugly building, right?
Mm.
And we put yellow siding on and white trim and white shutters and white downspouts. I mean, the building just looked great. So I got a call about a month later from the city council. And I've had fights with the city council before, which is really funny. So this guy who I've had a fight with before calls me up. And his name is Richard Walmsley, I think it was, right? And he calls me, hey, this is Richard Walmsley from the city of Houston, blah, 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 blah. And I swear, I go, what did I do now? And he goes, no, you don't understand. I called you to thank you. I go, what do you mean? He goes, you made our town look beautiful. Thank you so much for renovating that building. Every time I pass it now, I'm so happy that our town looks so much better. So that's
On the eyesore.
the most amazing thing, right? So that was born a trust. The insurance company paid the trust. We renovated the building, and I bought that property for $1,724 out of my pocket. Now, I've since put more money into it because I actually just recently turned over tenants and completely renovated the inside. So I put about probably about $30,000 on the inside because I just wanted to. You know, I've owned the building for 8 years now. They never touched it before, but when they owned it, so I owned the building for 8 years and I completely renovated the inside. But it was just by choice. I mean, the upstairs unit now has a washer and dryer. It's actually a really, really nice unit, and my cash flow on that has increased probably about $1,000 since I bought it.
Wow.
And that is what you can do with some when you invest in real estate and you invest it right.
That's
And
amazing.
equity in that building is I probably have $200,000 worth of equity in that building now.
Wow.
And then I bought another subject to, another subject to, another subject to, another subject to. And I've got just a couple of minutes, but I want to tell you real quick about a subject to, a conversation of a subject to. I go to see this guy that I've been working on for 3 years. I've been talking to this guy about buying his house, buying his condo. And I go to buy his condo, and he shows me his mortgage statement. It's perfect. So again, I don't have time to go into like the greatest subject to deals. But when somebody shows you their mortgage statement, if their house is worth $100,000 and they owe anything around $100,000, like anywhere from $95,000 to $110,000,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful subject to deal. Beautiful, because they can't get out of the deal without paying money. So this guy owed $97,000 on his house, and I'm like, yes, this is a subject to deal. So I explained to him that I'm going to take over the payments, take over the property. And he goes, can you do that? And I go, yeah, sure, of course I can, right? So I explain how I'm going to do it, blah, blah. And then he looks at me. I swear, he looks at me and goes, you're smart like my brother was. I go, what do you mean? And he goes, well, my brother died a couple of years ago. He was really smart with money like you are. I said, oh, that's interesting. He goes, as a matter of fact, I have this $200,000. I don't know what to do with it. I go, well, what kind of interest rate are you getting on it? What are you making on it? He goes, oh, I get like 1 or 2%. I said, how'd you like to make 7% guaranteed? And he goes, can you do that? So not only did I get a subject to deal from this guy, but I borrowed $200,000 and bought 2 more properties.
It's beautiful. That is
Uh,
I heard that story before.
And that is
we can
how.
pretty much end here, but like the way you're explaining things is just getting me excited with the compound.
It should. It should. How much money do you have to buy property right now? Do you know?
Well, once these close, I'll have a little bit over 100,000.
Yeah. See, Joey, this is the difference between a non-student and a student. Joey, how much money do you have to buy a property right now?
Unlimited amount.
Unlimited amount. All you need, you have. Now, why aren't you buying that property? There's only one reason to not buy a property. Only one. You ready?
It's not a deal.
It's not a deal.
That's right.
It's so simple. If you have a good deal, the money will find you. Always. So I apologize. I have a hard stop. I actually have a coaching client coming in right now in 2 minutes.
Okay.
So, and I need to talk to her because I need to have a conversation just like this with her.
So then one last question. Where can
Sure.
people find you at?
So they can go to investorschooling.com and actually you can take a free class. And what we do is actually, we actually have a free class. It's not like, we don't call you up and say, come in and listen to our sales pitch. We don't do sales pitches. We have you come in and actually sit in a real class. And they can actually sit in via Zoom if they're too far away, or if they don't want to come in, they can sit in via Zoom, or they can actually come into class in our classes in Langhorne. We prefer if they come in, but you can be in Zoom. That's fine. And it's a free class. It's an actual class that the students have paid for, and you get to audit a class basically. And then what we do is we invite you back on a Monday night to a mastermind meeting. How do mastermind meetings, Joey? Are they cool or what?
They're cool. They're very cool.
They're just cool. He doesn't want to embellish, but that's fine. So what we do is in the mastermind meeting, we talk about everybody's individual deals, everything that people are working on, and we all answer and try to help each other. And then at that point, if you want to become a student, we'll talk about becoming a student. We want to make sure you're committed to 2 classes before we even want to approach you to be a student, because we don't want to waste your money. So it's investorschooling.com, and I would love to see you guys again, man. Joey, I'll see you on Monday night at the mastermind.
Yes, sir.
You know what, Jonathan? You want to be at a mastermind meeting?
Yeah, sure.
You're on the mastermind meeting on Monday night. Just Joey will give you the link.
Awesome.
All right. That'd be cool, man. I'd love to have you on there. Very
Awesome.
cool, man. All right, I got to run. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I've got to go. By now, my coaching students upstairs going, "Where's Larry?"
All right. Well, let's end the show, I guess, right there. So take care, everyone.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
You guys.